Up next, the Holy Trinity.
Hola.
I think you should think about changing your name to Trinity Slay Bonet. Because that Beyonce performance, you were embodying it.
With Beyonce, it's never really about the steps. She has this presence that she could stand on the stage and people will start screaming at the top of their lungs. That's what you had tonight.
Tonight on the runway, I think this gown is on the simpler side. I'm not mad at it. I think that color is beautiful on your skin. Your makeup looks phenomenal. And I can tell that you love what you do.
Thank you, all stars. I think we've heard enough. Based on the judges' critiques, I've made some decisions. Jan, congratulations. You are the top all-star of the week.
Now, sissy, that walk. Sissy, now, sissy, that walk.
Well, you promised you were going to start this episode on a weird note, and you certainly fulfilled that promise, so thank you.
It's been in my head, that and bring back my girls. These remixes, these covers that Leland and Stitch did are, in many ways, far surpass the originals.
Yeah, I know. I kind of had to. There were with a few of them. I kind of had to remind myself, like, oh yeah, this is a RuPaul song. Like they kind of, they Marge Simpson Chanel dressed it. They definitely turned it into its own thing.
Yes.
The vest was saying let's do lunch, but the culotte said you're paying.
Yeah, and I appreciated the Aerosmith send up, If I Dream. I thought that one was done really well. And then the Gaga song was also like such a bop. And the reason I'm kind of like bringing this up is because we started with our clip of the week of Trinity's judging and then Jan winning. I think what's very interesting about this episode is so much was not of the girls' doing. I think so much of this challenge had to do with the production, meaning, the song that was picked, the arrangement, the vocal, and the choreography, right? That's 4 elements that the queens had no control over. And it reminded me of History of the World.
Yeah, I was even thinking down to like, because I'm trying to figure out the logistics here of, obviously each of these queens picked their own halftime performer. So they had a hand in at least deciding the character, which is better than History of the World.
Yes.
In that, no one was stuck with Princess Diana, Laugh Riot. And
right.
So,
or what was the Stevie Nicks thing?
Stevie Nicks for the Divas Challenge and All Stars 3.
Right.
So they got to pick someone that they felt, oh yeah, I could do that queen. I could do that diva. I could do that person. But then I wondered, okay, so how did it work? Is it kind of like they let production know like a month beforehand who they're going to be, and then the whole thing gets written and created? You know what I mean?
Correct.
And so
and I'm assuming that the producers, because each one has a producer, right? You know that.
Yeah.
So each queen has a producer. They're like texting back and forth. They're like, hey, you need this, you need this, you need this. So I'm assuming that some of them didn't get their first pick.
I would not be surprised if some of them didn't. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if there were any that they didn't get their first pick.
Because if you think about the choices for halftime shows, right? By the way, Pandora getting Carol Channing, like what a lucky get. Because Carol Channing did do the Super Bowl. I had to look that up.
She did it twice. I looked up a bunch of other.
Did?
Yeah, she did it twice. I actually have a list. We can talk about it maybe later in the episode of other potential choices they could have done.
Oh, great. Okay,
so
I
we'll
wrote some
later.
of those down. Yeah, we'll do that later. But yeah, they definitely could have picked others. So they did get a choice. I don't know if they got their first choice. And then, they don't pick anything else. They bring the look, and then obviously they have to do the attitude and the face and get the choreo correct, right?
Right, but otherwise, that was my other question. Is their response? They provide the look. They choose the character. They determine the look. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying because I did feel like some of the, and what's also different from, say, like History of the World is I feel like where each of them had their own kind of nuances in the performance, here they were so different. Like, I mean, Trinity was, had tons of choreography, and Raja mostly stood there, and
yes.
nothing against Raja. It's just like, that's what the performance called for. Like, in a way, you couldn't compare a queen who's dancing her ass off to Carol Channing,
Correct. When I feel like, and we'll totally get into this with each of the queens, but I feel like Pandora kind of, she had a safe performance because obviously, like what was funny about that performance, mostly of what was funny was the impression and the words, right? And how it was done. And, Pandora brought, the energy into the face and the moves, and obviously looks like her, looks like Pandora looking like her. So she lucked out by not having much to do. Same with I would say Raja, although Raja, God, there was just like some nuance that I saw that I thought worked so well. But you're absolutely right. I mean, if you compare what Scarlett had to do versus what like Yara had to do, there was a lot.
Yeah, it's just they're all. I mean, it's kind of interesting because I think it's part of what made this such an entertaining challenge, but I think a tricky one to judge is because we got such a variety of performances. But then how do you? And all of them, no one was bad. I think it's fair to say I can't think of anyone who was like, "Oh God, that was terrible." Like,
not terrible. No, it was nothing. Was a car crash. Nothing was.
No.
Some of them even think of an All-Stars car crash.
Right. Some of them certainly were better than others. Some of them were Trinity K. Bonet, and some of them weren't. No big deal. But overall, it was my takeaway the first time watching it. And sometimes I don't know if you have this problem where it's like, Colin, stop watching this like you're judging it, like you have to critique it and have thoughts about it. Just watch the goddamn TV show and enjoy it. Stop watching it as like, I gotta like. Where did this performance go wrong? And so like trying to just like purely enjoy it, I was like, yeah, objectively, I had a great time.
Great episode, great impressions, great faces. The frills runway I thought was just frills.
Totally. Yeah, like I have almost no thoughts on the runway this week, and it's nothing against the runways. I just. Except for Akira. I think that's the only one where I was like, oh, that's a look. Should put the pedal to the metal,
Yes. But, as RuPaul says, like, they're all superstars. They're all really wonderful. They're all superstars.
Yeah. So I think that's beautiful that you should say, and that's going to go in the promo. You look like a superstar. You look like a star. I love when RuPaul
You're a
says
star, baby.
Well, when RuPaul says, like, you look like a superstar, she wants it to feel and sound like, you're a star, baby. I just made you a star. I can see it. It's like, well, then why is she in the bottom, girl?
Well, because it's just a tacky little TV show.
Yeah.
A little beady show.
Yeah.
I want to say this because we did start with Jan winning and Trinity's critique. Both of these queens did very, very well. I'm really happy that Jan won. Granted, now this is from my obviously unbiased opinion that Trinity K. Bonet is the best drag queen to go through RuPaul's Drag Race. But I'm really happy for Jan. She was elated. It was like watching a fan win on her favorite TV show. Like, I feel like the edit that Jan is getting as this very talented drag queen fan of the show is coming through, and I think it's adorable. And she got Gaga, right? So we got to say, like, she got the beach ball, and she didn't deflate it. She hit it back beautifully.
To be fair, the cursed queens of Gaga and Beyonce were redeemed this episode.
No, I'm going to argue that. No way, Mary. Okay, so I should.
Wow. She was like, I see those toes and I stepping on them. I saw the toes and I stepped on them.
Well, Mary, listen. Okay, so yes, Jan did. First of all, Jan's nuance as Gaga was very studied. I was very impressed. She had the movement down and she had the faces down. I thought that was fabulous. Trinity K. Bonet had the movement and presence. Like, it was so good. But let's just talk about this idea of like, oh, they broke the curse. Look, if the curse is in Snatch Game, if Trinity had to do Beyonce for Snatch Game, the curse isn't about whether a queen can do a look or a lip sync based on these icons. The curse is that Gaga and Beyonce and the reverence that people feel about them, which is, side note, what Yara fell into, but the reverence that people feel about Gaga and wanting to do their fave, their stan, that is the curse. That is the curse. When you go into Snatch Game and you're not taking the piss out of them. Do you know what I mean? In this halftime show, that was kind of my only critique of this halftime show, is that none of it was really funny. It was all like very kind of like, no, these are the pop star illusions. I didn't think like Christina Bianco or Von Zell Solomon's impressions were of the pop icons. Those are the singers on the track. I didn't think that they were necessarily funny. It was just impressive, right? Because it sounded like somebody doing an impression of Gaga, of Steven Tyler, of, Fergie. You know what I mean? That was what was entertaining, that was entertaining, but it wasn't necessarily funny. Nobody really took the piss out of these queens. So, of course, Gaga and Beyonce are going to work, because that's what the curse is when people forget that this is a drag show.
Well, and that there's nothing funny about Lady Gaga and Beyonce. Like, it's just not, like, there's so many other funny reference points. I just think there's also the idea of like choosing them as a basis. I mean, we've been thinking of like when Miss Cracker chose Gaga for the Snatch Game in All Stars 5. It's like, why would you go to such low waters to go swimming? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many other, rivers and lakes that you could just go wading in. And so I think I heard
ain't no
saying,
mountain high enough, Mary.
No, well, that's also true. That's also very true. That on the other hand, ain't no mountain high enough. Don't hit people.
Hit people.
I think the challenge is, and I think it's also an interesting critique of this challenge, is that like making Gaga funny never really works. Making Beyonce funny hasn't really worked. But if you take them seriously, or if you like embody them fully, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't that work?
I don't want to jump ahead, but like if there was a Coco Montrese here, she would obviously do Janet Jackson. And that was the problem with Janet Jackson's, or Coco's Janet Jackson in Snatch Game, is that she loved Janet, and she does Janet, on a weekly basis and yada, yada, yada. But it's not funny. It's just this great illusion. So when people are like, the curse is broken, I'm like, just wait until one of them tries to do it in Snatch Game again. I'm not talking about Jan or Trinity, because I think they're smart. But another queen that's like, oh, no, I love Beyonce. I do great Beyonce. It's like, well, you love Beyonce, but we don't love you trying to make her funny. Does that make sense? Like, the curse isn't broken, is what I mean to say.
So I think what I'm gathering is that the curse hasn't been broken. Mary's, did you guys get that as well?
I know. I'm being like a little wet blanket here. Everybody's like, yay! I'm like, girl, what? No, we're talking about two different things. Of course they did well, but no curse is broken. No curse is broken.
It's a parade, and you started honking your horn. No, move. I'm gay, move. Gay pride, everybody.
I'm gay. Yeah. I we'll see. We'll see if there's a Snatch Game that somebody brings Beyonce and does it funny, but I just don't think that's,
Can I also add to that, because it has shown up in the past on Snatch Game and in other situations. I would say Gaga, Beyonce, and Madonna. And actually, I'm going to go one step further. And I know there was a Rusical. I don't know if you remember, but Jan actually didn't win the Madonna Rusical.
Mary, I hope that I never have to hear that clip. I want to rule the world.
Oh, I know.
I never want to hear that clip
I
again.
hope I never.
And I loved it when she did it. Like, I loved it when she did it. And it's been overplayed to death.
Can I tell you what I really never want to hear again? Is the rehearsal of Jan doing it and blowing the mic out. And everybody has to act.
Blowing the mic out.
Yeah, and everybody has to act like, wow, you can really sing. I'm like, she blew the mic out. She doesn't know the words.
That wasn't her fault. That was the audio engineer's fault. And I'm sure that they're kicking themselves every time they hear that blown out microphone on that riff.
I don't know.
Absolutely. But no,
the gain on her mic is a podcaster. Gain on her mic.
Oh God, Colin using big words now. Gain. Oh God.
Gain is weight.
You know, the only thing I know about Gain is that it's not tied and it's not all.
No, it isn't. You know what's funny? I actually just bought some Gain recently. So.
Oh, nice.
It wasn't even a joke. It's just a weird coincidence. For the first time in my life, I bought Gain. Thank you. Anyway, so I know Jan. It's not her fault. It's some AV guy who's been fired from Wow Presents. But they could have done another take of it. They could have said, hey, actually, could we just pause? Michelle, Jan, could we do that again? Frank, it's terrible, blew out the mic, and we want to make sure we capture your beautiful note, Jan, because you're really going to shine this week, you know?
We're going to use this clip to death. But listen, so I guess the point that I want to make here, you know, to kind of bring back my girls, bring all of this back to a bigger level, is that while I think the queens definitely had the ability to tank this challenge or kill this challenge, which is obvious with a Yara or a Trinity, right? Or a Jan, like, you know, you can either get the beach ball and deflate it or you can hit it. I also think that there is a lot of factors that are out of these queens' control. And as we go through these acts, because I think there's little details to talk about of this episode, but as we go through each act, I mean, I think, you know, it's just worth noting that Fergie, like, that's hard, Mary. That's a difficult job versus someone like Sonique, who, I mean, there's a lot to play with Steven Tyler, you know, or a Prince or a Gaga, right? Like, there's a lot. So I just think it's worth noting that we started this episode with this clip of the week. Trinity very well could have won this episode. Very well could have won this episode because it sounds like it came down to the fact that Michelle did not like Trinity's absolutely gorgeous, stunning pageant gown. Anyway, done.
Yeah, I think Michelle needs to up the prescription or Warby Parker's because I think that Trinity... Listen, I know she won last week, and I know there's the long game of, like, you know, negging Jan.
Everybody gets and yes, negging Jan, and everybody gets a prize. Like,
but then everyone gets a prize, and like
very much,
you know, $1 to Boston Cream Donuts. Jan goes home next week. Like, that's also what often happens. Is she finally gets her hand on it? She finally sees the Ark of the Covenant, and then her face melts. You know. And so,
no, there's girls that are getting a worse edit than Jan. Jan is going at least till Snatch Game.
I guess, but you know what I mean? Where it's just kind of, there's that sense of like, okay, this is all that they had. Like, this is all they owe you. You know what I mean? This is all that was in the account for you, Jan, is, you know, you're going to do pretty well. You're going to get a win under your belt. And then we're going to start to, you know, wean you off. You know what I mean? Because we've got Ginger. We've got, you know, Eureka. We've got Trinity. We don't know what to do with Pandora yet. Akira, you're still in the competition. So
Akira, oh my God, robbed queen. Okay,
robbed queen.
We have to talk about this. Wait, what were you just saying? You were just we were just talking about Jan. Oh, Trinity's gown and the judging. So the other thing was the judging was very interesting because I'm just gonna say this outright and we'll explain later. But I don't know how Eureka was in the top. I just don't get it.
So that was I was saying before about Madonna is I think that Madonna doesn't work in Snatch Games, but I also find that even though they did a musical about Madonna, Jada was actually robbed, just in case anyone forgot.
Totally. Thank you
Jada
very
was robbed.
much.
Jada was robbed.
I
and
made
I
a
think
video in Paris.
I made a video. I could watch that clip over and over and over.
Same. They don't
don't need
show
to-
that enough.
No, but I can watch Jan step touching with a fake mole on her face. So, even though they did a musical about Madonna, and I'm sure they've had runways inspired by her, they have Kimono Gate.
Many. They've had
Many.
Car crashes of runways inspired by Madonna twice.
Right. And it's so much Madonna. I'm just gonna. I realize that I've made some controversial points in this podcast. Re-one Miss Janet Jackson, and
Mary.
one of her songs that I don't like. But
Go to hell.
Yeah.
Go straight to hell.
Yeah. So I'm going to warm up the seat and add to it that I think that Madonna facially is not an entertaining performer.
Correct.
I think
I
that
agree
her
with that.
costumes are great, and her, the way she wiggles on that stage is great, and she reinvents herself, and she's reinvented pop music over and over.
Icon.
But in terms
Absolutely.
of like watching someone perform, it's like, it's the way that RuPaul once described Pearl as a runway on Ambien. It's a similar vibe of like, perk up, pancake. This is a bowl of fun soup. And I'm just so all of that to say that Eureka, I love you, but I'm shocked that she was not in the bottom for both.
Oh my God!
A kind of B+ Madonna. I don't know, and I didn't love the runway.
No, I didn't love the runway either. I thought it was interesting. At least it was interesting. But
Sure.
So but definitely for me, she was in the bottom. She would have been in the bottom 3. I had Yara and Eureka in making 2 of the 3. I'll talk about my third, which I know is going to be so controversial.
I think I know who your third is, but I'm not going to say it. But I'm wondering if it's mine as well.
Okay. Well, listen. So, do you want to talk about the challenge now, or do you want to talk about some of the details and get those out of the way?
Yeah, we could. There could be a. Let's just lead up to it. I had a couple thoughts that I wanted to just mention. If that's okay. One of them is super tiny, and it's one of those scenes that doesn't forward the narrative at all. But I'm glad it got included, and it was when they first enter the workroom and Eureka like tastes a stain on her shirt, and then Ginger's like, "Oh, not syrup," and like they just have this little bit together, and I just wanted to call out that I am continuing to deeply enjoy Ginger's Aunt Peg from Florida vibes, and I think what makes me continue to kind of enjoy Ginger is like, oh, you're Aunt Peg from Florida, you're a hoot,
You know what, Margaret? Us big girls got to stick together.
Yeah, she's that. She's having a ho-ho for breakfast. She's having a cigarette and a ho-ho for breakfast.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah. No, that was a cute little moment. I did clock that because I'm just like, oh, the editors saw that and they kept that in.
It was great.
The moment that I'm really glad that they kept in was Trinity leading the choir.
Mm-hmm.
She led them singing, and then she cut them off like a conductor. And I'm like, you know what? We even got Yara going, let it shine. This was a really cute little moment.
Yeah, this must have been, as someone who leads a chorus every once in a while and a bit of a sing-along, as you do, this must have felt very good to see your queen doing what you do. I mean, the representation in the room.
My queen. This... Yeah. I think I mentioned this on our first episode of this season, but like I'm very nervous about Trinity's edit. I'm also very mad that people are like, quote unquote, standing Trinity that have not been standing her before. I'm just very possessive in like a weird way. I just love her. I just think the world of Trinity so much. I watched Untucked because I knew I would get more of Trinity. Like, it's odd, right? It's odd how I just love every take of hers. Like even her cute little you got it, Ganj at the start of the episode. Like I just think she is so sweet. She is so fun and so present. And one of the moments that I'm really glad that they're kind of adding, which makes me excited for Trinity's storyline, was in the workroom, you know, whatever it was, Social Justice Corner, even though there wasn't a Social Justice Corner this week, it was Raja and Akira being friends with Trinity.
Yes. Oh, I mean, this is kind of like in Carrie when they're all being nice to her at the prom.
I know. Yeah, Mary.
And when they're being like genuinely nice, they're like, "Oh my God, your dress is beautiful," and Carrie's like, "Thanks, I made it." And it's like, "Oh my God," and I think it's like Edie McClurg in an early role. And she's like, "Oh my God, you look amazing," and it's just like, and then Tommy dances with her, and there's the rotating camera, and then everything is just like, God, Carrie is having such a good time at the prom, and I am so
and then
afraid.
It ends. And then it ends.
Well, then I am so afraid. Like, where is the goddamn bucket in All Star 6? You know,
are they going to come for Trinity?
Right.
Are they going to come for Trinity? I don't think so, Mary. I think that they see the sweet goose pizza queen that she is. Like, I think that they see her. And, because her story on season 6, it was very vulnerable. She had a wonderful journey. And the fact that she's come back so strong, and I don't know, it's just so charming. This moment with them when they were all laughing and, kind of cutting each other a little bit, with what did she say? So long, Elton John, or move on, Elton John.
John, yeah.
It just made me so happy. And then you got the talking head of like, all I really wanted to do was make some connections because I didn't really get to do that. I'm just like, oh, you're making friends. It's like when, I don't know if you felt this. This is such a weird reference, but like, I imagine that you felt this way when you brought Marco to stay with your brother and his wife in Sacramento. And you were like, is Marco going to get along with Tonka and the dogs?
Mm-hmm.
And then you saw them getting along and you're like, oh, okay, my kid's fine. I feel that way with Trinity. Like, my fave is going to be fine because she's getting along with people and people are going to support her on this show. She's not just going to be this like rogue villain or rogue winner. She's going to get along to get along. And I think that's what I like to see.
Yeah, you've dropped her off at the Gymboree birthday party, and you're like, oh my god, they're teaching her how to tumble. Oh, it's gonna be fine.
You know what?
Yeah, you wait in the car. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so there's that. But really, how I feel about Trinity is like, oh, my long lost cousin came back from, she was sent away, and she came back, and now she's making friends in math class.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's also that sense of like the way, at least through Drag Race, that we all know Trinity is as kind of a, for lack of a better term, a more beta energy. And now she's going back and there's this kind of alpha quality, and it's like, it feels precarious sometimes because you're like, oh, I'm not used to seeing you lead the conversation or be assertive about something.
Mm-hmm. Right, have an opinion that
have an
something.
opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right,
absolutely.
Disagree with someone or stand up for yourself, and there's that kind of
bring it down to a 2.
Yeah. And so there is some of that of like, oh, I'm not used to seeing someone like you be so assertive in the room, and it is. I feel like if I had never seen Trinity before this season, I don't know how I would react, but I know I'd be intrigued because it's like a totally different narrative. It's not this like sweet cinnamon roll energy. They're not giving her that like, she's not Crystal Method, and it's not a shady edit, and it's just this like weirdly like genuine
narrator.
Yeah. And
there's a clear narrator energy here. Yeah, I'm into it.
I feel like she is a narrator, and then like every once in a while someone calls Sonique and it's like, hey, what do you think? She's like, well, girl, here's what I think.
Sonique's odd with her edit. It's interesting with how they're using Sonique.
Yeah,
because it's very sweet. I just don't know if they have a lot of footage to work with. But yeah, I'm enjoying. I enjoyed Trinity with Jamal. There was a lot of Trinity these past couple episodes, and Mary, I'm so thrilled. I thought she was gonna win. Mary, I think she was gonna win.
I think it was kind of like, well, if if she wins now, like 4 episodes in, and she has 2 wins, I almost felt like they could have easily given her the win. I would have been fine with it. Yeah, I would have totally agreed with it. I think it may have just been like, we could also give it to Jan, and it wouldn't really make a difference right now in the competition for Trinity. You know what I mean? Like, she's still a front runner right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
sure.
just thinking from that point of view of like, there's a narrative reason to give it to Jan right now. If they give it to Trinity, there isn't really a narrative advance other than now Trinity is a super front runner, you know? And maybe they don't need that 4 episodes in. Because otherwise, I mean, Trinity was doing so well with Jamal. Jamal, validate me gently with a chainsaw, but Jamal, I just I can't even focus because I'm like, I just want you to, I want you to approve of me. I want you to say, you can do it, Colin.
He's got that energy. He's always welcome. He's always welcome on the show. And not to knock Todrick Hall, but I don't know. It's just
who,
Paul,
yeah,
who, Paul. Anyway, the other thing I want to say is that Jan is a fierce fucking bitch. Everybody better watch out.
Oh, Jan, she has to go to those places to become Lady. It's like, you're not becoming Eileen Wuornos. You're being Lady Gaga. Like, calm down. I gotta go to those places to bring
my girl wants to smoke. She's gonna smoke.
Yeah, I mean,
that's my Eileen Wuornos.
That's great. Yeah. I'm flipping my hair behind my back aggressively, bulging my eyes. I'm sitting under an overpass. It's so dark. I'm sorry.
Selby. I could only watch that movie once. Right?
I know.
Yeah, that movie. She is phenomenal in that movie. Both of them are.
My favorite thing about that movie, because
we're talking about Monster, by the way.
Monster, because nothing like
with
a Monster tangent with Charlize Theron.
Yeah,
and so I was watching a making with her, Theron, potato, tomato.
Theron.
They didn't. I don't know. The curse. But
what did you say about Janet Jackson?
Yeah, sorry. What did you say about
saved a lot of people.
What did you say about Together again? Oh, I know. Everyone is so upset about it. I love it.
You're terrible, Mary. I don't know why you love it. You're terrible.
I don't know because
I know. We're kikiing, Mary. I know.
Right.
But I'm just like, ugh. When I say I don't know why you're excited about it, I'm serious, Mary. Because oh my God, that song is so good. Okay, we're done. What were you saying about Monster?
For anyone who wants to be caught up, I do not like the song Together Again, and my feet are planted firmly on the ground. But I also want to make sure no one is confused. I do like the song All For You. So anyway.
And you love Janet.
And I love Janet. Okay, let me just tell you this because I decided I like Bart. I decided to validate this a little bit, so I was like, let me bounce around Janet's, and then we'll get back to Monster, and then we'll get back to Drag Race. Let me bounce around Janet's discography a little bit on Spotify, and so I was listening to her most recent album, and I was like, let me just pick a random song that like. Let's just if Janet's doing a 2/3 through the album, I'm doing this song for me kind of song, and I just hit play on it. And at first I was listening to it and I was like, oh, this is still good. And then as it went on, I was just like, where is this song going? Where are my panties? I was just like, so am I can't be alone on this little boat about that. There's some recent Janet that ain't what she used to be. Is that fair?
So, Mary, sometimes when you listen to a Janet album, you listen to the album. So there's hits.
The whole thing. Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's hits, and then there's songs in between where she's like doing something. She's working some shit out,
doing
right?
Dishes. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. She's polishing the silver. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So so in context of the entire album of what she's trying to say, that song would make sense. But it's like listening to, Mary, let me think of an example. It's like listening to a Panda Bear album and only listening to one song.
Mm-hmm. You gotta go on the journey.
Exactly. Janet is about a journey with her albums. Sometimes some of her albums are very concept based, right?
That's what it was.
And Velvet Rope is very experimental. Like, she does some cool shit. She's saying something, Mary. You gotta get into it. Smoke a joint, maybe, open your mind a little bit, but don't go into it being like, I want to listen to,
if this isn't Carly Rae Jepsen, I send it back. Yeah.
You need to expect not fast food, but a 5-course meal from Janet when listening to her albums.
Yeah, and I think I must have just gone straight to the sorbet palate cleanser.
Got it.
Because it was like, there was like 40 seconds left of the song, and I was like, oh, this is the same song.
Oh my God.
She just started a new one on her own.
I think you weren't expecting it. But anyway, talk about Monster.
So anyway, the thing I love about Monster the most, now that we cleared that up, the thing I love about Monster the most is that there's a making of where, like, they talk about just how hard it was to play this character and be in that headspace, obviously. And there was some quick clip of them filming a scene, and it's like a behind-the-scenes camera filming the scene, and then they call cut, and Charlize just has to kind of like walk away and like walk into the woods to walk it off, and the director has to follow her and give her a hug, and like,
oh, wow.
And I was just like, oh wow, oh, that's so fascinating that like, because I'm just like forever disappointed that when someone asked Toni Collette how she did Hereditary, she was like, oh, I don't know, it was just a job, mate, and so like, I just want that, and so I'm getting it,
Yeah, it's like when Jan walked off stage as Lady Gaga, and she was like still doing those weird, quirky moves. She needed to come down from that pedestal of Gaga.
Yeah, she was still like doing she was putting heroin in her arm, I think, or something that she was doing. I think she might have had an allergic reaction at some point. This was not a dance move. This was an EpiPen situation. I think Sarge was eating peanuts.
Oh, I love Sarge. So Mary, let's talk about these queens.
All right.
And we'll start with Ginge doing Fergie, which interesting that Ginger picked Fergie and it wasn't Jan, because Jan's the one that's been quoting Fergie at the basketball game. Let's play some basketball. That's Fergie.
Yeah, I think the bigger question is, I mean, I hear you. I think that like if you're gonna choose, if you have a choice, right? Like it's kind of like Snatch Game. You have a choice. You have the time to figure out who you want to be. So like, pick someone that you could like really, milk a lot from. It seemed to me, and the critique was like, yeah, I get it, Fergie's really hard to kind of like bring to life. It's like, well, she wasn't stuck with her. Like, why did she pick her? And like, there were definitely lots of other options Ginger could have done. Ginger's a great performer, so it was kind of like, why would you choose someone who doesn't come to life easily?
I think that they had a list to choose from.
Because, that's interesting.
Because they used 2 specific talents, plus Leland and Stitch also did vocals, and this gentleman that I don't know, Gabe Lopez, they were the vocals for this. I'm sure you do. Yeah. But I know that Christina Bianco does, she does a great Fergie. And Fergie, she had a notable halftime show. But I thought Ginger did great for the challenge, right? I thought she did great with the faces. Like, I saw Fergie in the face. And, she did what she could with those moves. But I think Jamal was also sort of defending himself, because he's like, well, there wasn't much I could give you. You had to just exude everything else. You had a lot more to do than some of the other queens that had the moves, like Beyonce and Gaga and Prince and Steven Tyler, or
signature moves, whereas Fergie doesn't have
Shakira.
Signature moves.
Right, there's no signature moves. So, but I definitely got Fergie. I thought she did really great. I thought she was best when she didn't have the choreo kind of holding her back. That's when her face engaged, when she wasn't doing this like kind of weird choreo. But the other thing is, and shout out to Sister Mary Evan Ross Katz, who was texting me about this, but like the other thing about Fergie is that Fergie isn't like the gay icon. So when you think about hits on YouTube and sharing this on Instagram and whatever, they're not going to watch the Fergie performance, Mary. They're going to watch the Beyonce one that's edited. I mean, the editing during the Beyonce segment was significantly more work than some of the editing and I'm talking about like video cuts than the others, right? So there's this like Fergie's edit or Ginger's edit didn't get this like viral quality. And I think that's because they knew, and Christina does a great impression of Fergie. The song wasn't that good. The Geronimo cover, like it wasn't the best produced. And it's Fergie. It's not Janet Jackson. It's not Gaga. It's not Shakira, right? It's not queer enough.
I mean, if anything, I was getting Aubrey O'Day at points.
Wow, totally.
Yeah.
Oh my God, put that on a tote bag. If
right?
anything, I was getting Aubrey O'Day.
If anything, there was definitely, and like it was like Aubrey O'Day navigating like a wet staircase. Like that's kind of what it was. It was like Aubrey O'Day comes home from a rainstorm.
Yes,
you know?
Mary. Oh my God.
It's like, ooh,
this is
gotta
brilliant.
get up this porch, you know?
This is brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Mary. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. By the way, Mary's, if you're wondering about my audio and being crunchy, I am in Los Cabos right now, staying at a resort. I am at a resort. My friends took me for my birthday 2 times over because they missed last year's quarantine birthday and they missed this year's birthday. So they, with their points, because people have points and stuff, we're staying at this all-inclusive resort, and it is so gorgeous. But I am committed to this podcast. Wanted to get this episode out, get our thoughts out. I was excited to talk about it. So here we are. So Ginger was first. Mary. So Eureka. I thought Christina's impression of Madonna was also. I thought it was great. Like, it was clear that Christina Bianco won this challenge, along with Von Zell. I thought Von Zell sounded a lot like Beyonce as well, but she didn't do as many impressions as Christina. So Best Supporting Actress, Von Zell, Solomon. But it was a great Madonna impression. I just thought this wasn't a top performance for me. I thought, I liked the gap in the tooth, but she also, she dressed like her during the halftime show, and that was great. And that's all she really did for me.
Can I also just say, while I'm making, unpopular statements, is that of all of the looks I've seen Madonna in, that has never been one that impressed me.
The halftime show look?
The halftime show look. I always felt that it was a little like, okay.
Yeah.
Of all of the woman has, of all the transformations, she has just looked incredible. And this to me is just a little Spirit of Halloween. It's a little bit of like, ooh, look, I'm a gladiator, and like, can I have a Snickers bar now? Like a
right.
Bit of that for me. And so like when Michelle, was slipping off her seat about the big hair and the great costume, I was just like, okay. Like I was Helen Hunt and as good as it gets. Okay. So in case anyone doesn't know, it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me.
And it wasn't for me. I thought, but anyway, to Eureka's credit, I thought she painted very well. Painted very well, and she did the challenge. I wasn't excited by it, right? And again, I don't know if that's Eureka's fault.
I was just going to say, I'm also, as I'm thinking about this, I'm like, well, I don't know how much I'm like, oh, Eureka didn't do a good job. I think she did fine with the fact that she was playing Madonna. And you can't be that over the top. You can't, there's some others we'll talk about.
Who is she going to pick? She wasn't going to pick Janet Jackson. And, she didn't get Gaga, right? I don't know who she picked first. Maybe Madonna was her second choice. Or maybe the producer was like, look, we need somebody to play Madonna. And you were just like, oh, okay, I'll do it. I know what I can do for that.
You know what's interesting with halftime shows, and I don't know if this was an option, but there was definitely a year where they had Tanya Tucker and the Judds.
Oh, yeah, the Judds.
The Judds. I love a Judd. And so, there's also that of like, oh, like you would have you basically were doing Tanya Tucker on the runway. Like, I think I'm surprised, or I wonder what the T is on that, because it was definitely like a country halftime show one year, and I would have assumed that would be where Eureka would actually probably kill it.
Yeah, I thought she could have done Britney Spears.
Oh, Britney does show up a little bit. She shows up because I don't think she's like a
she's not the star act. She's one of many.
Yeah.
But you could say the same about well, maybe not Beyonce. Who else was kind of like I guess Katy Perry wasn't she part of an act, or Shakira was like part of it was Shakira and J-Lo, right?
Shakira and J-Lo, but they were both like individual acts. I think Britney was more of a cameo in Walk This Way with Aerosmith.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, there's some other, again, we'll talk about them maybe towards the end, but there's some others. I mean, I also, not that I want to see anyone be Kid Rock, but I feel like Eureka would do a great job at that.
Oh, Mary, you didn't want to see somebody do Bruno Mars? I wonder why.
Well, while we're on the topic, you know what? I am going to just say it because one of the halftime acts that I noticed was Maroon 5, and I feel Moves Like Jagger is very Uptown Funk for me in all of the ways we talked about Uptown Funk. They also used to play it a lot at Barry's Boot Camp when I used to go there, so I also think of it as like increasing the elevation on my treadmill.
Got it.
Okay. But
you know, it's funny. It's that song, when it came out, I was in grad school, and it was the topic of a lot of like nerdy music education teachers. Because the riff that he sings is a pentatonic scale, so you could easily use it in elementary school as an example for kids of a warm up or just singing a pentatonic scale. The boo, that's a pentatonic scale. There's only 5 notes. Yeah.
Where's the money note? Where's the money note?
Shut the fuck up.
Show me the money note.
So Mary, so next is Raja. I have to say Raja for me was the only reason she was safe is because she didn't have a lot. She had the easiest kind of movement. She was kind of tied with another queen that was in the bottom. That was in the judges' bottom. But it's very easy for Raja or this other queen that I'll talk about later to be in the top 3 with Jan and Trinity. I thought Raja looked stunning. I thought with very little to do, she left a lasting impression.
I think, and we've seen Diana Ross before. We've seen BB do it. To me, I feel like the real key to Diana Ross, like the thing that unlocks her, is bouncing the hair. There's a way of bouncing the hair. There's a certain kind of like, I see you, Rue, kind of smile. There's that.
I loved in the workroom when she was like, I love you.
Yeah.
I love you. Raja. BSA Raja.
Yeah.
Diana Ross.
Well, there was that one moment right before they go to the runway where like Raja and Yara are like trains passing in the night. They're like, hoo, hoo, like across those.
I saw that
together, and then and that's the end of the scene. I think that like, looking back, I will say that of the Diana Rosses we've seen on Drag Race, I do think that BB killed it. I think that BB nailed the small nuances of Diana Ross, but Raja, to me, I think did a great job, but I don't think there was much for her to do.
Right. There was. I mean, yeah. And you know, it was a little weird. I only noticed the masks on the pit crew during her number.
The masks on the pit crew. You know, in a weird way, like there was something kind of hot and Mad Max about the masks on the pit crew as well. Sure. Like I can also kind of
that's where I felt it didn't fit, whereas everywhere else it did. Does that make sense? You know, when the pit crew had like wearing masks during the other numbers makes more sense than this one because they were just standing there being her backup singers.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I see. They were socially distanced. It was fine. I mean, you know, whatever. Masks, reporters. So then we get, I mean, I don't want to just go out and say we finally have a drag king on Drag Race because we've
No, we missed Yara, no?
Oh, did we?
Yeah. We have 2 more before the Drag King. So Yara...
put a button in the Drag King on Drag Race. That's just a little teaser when we get back from the commercial break. So Yara,
put the bass in your walk, cover girl. I thought this was the perfect song. This was the best impression. It was also the funniest of all of them. This was the one where I felt like, oh, this could have been dragged the fuck up. And all the Lole could have just been so funny. And Yara, whether it was because Yara took her too seriously or just got in her head, there was just no face in Yara. There was no energy in her face. It was all in her body. And she wasn't remembering that, like, this could have been really funny. I feel like Yara could have won this challenge with this arrangement. She had the proper character or the proper icon, right? Because it was notable. A great arrangement and a track, impression. And then the choreography. She had everything, but she didn't sell it.
I mean, this is actually an interesting example of, it's kind of the opposite of what we were talking about, where like, well, the queens aren't really contributing to so many elements of this challenge. Mm-hmm. This is a situation where all of the elements, other than like, I guess the look, if she, provided that, but all the other elements were in place, and it was Yara not filling in that one part that made it kind of not work. You know what I mean? Where it's like, right. Yeah, all of those, the production is there, the track is great, blah, 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 blah. But I think Yara is a great example of, but if the queen doesn't show up and put in a good performance, then it doesn't work. And so maybe she's not responsible for the songwriting or everything else, but I thought Yara was an interesting example of like how much of a difference it makes when the queen does succeed, For
sure. Yeah. No, it's a great example. And, you could even go back to Thorgy Thor and be like, Thorgy could have sold it. Like, there is a way to have sold that.
It's funny. I feel like with both Thorgy and Yara, I feel like both of them in their episodes, there's a resigned energy that ends up with them where they're like, well, it is what it is. I mean, what do you want me to do about it? Like,
right. You want me to go home? Okay, I'm going to go home.
Right. Yeah. It's, there's a similar vibe. So, and I don't know. I think that's nothing more than coincidence, but. I
think with Thorgy, it was a little bit more, this is rigged, girl.
Yeah. Well, and I think where I got that from.
Didn't she like complain about a prop? Somebody else got a prop.
Yes. She had asked for a prop and didn't get it, but then like Trixie got props or something like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like by the end, Yara's energy was a little bit of this is rigged energy as well.
Yeah, in a way, I hear that. Scarlett as Katy Perry. Now sissy, that one. Now sissy. I thought the shark costume. This is a drag show. It was kind of funny. But I was not buying this look or the Katy Perry of this at all. I don't think this was a successful. And again, I don't think this had anything to do with Scarlett. I don't think was just a successful arrangement. I mean, granted, I like the song, but I don't think the impression was successful. This was a hard one to do.
Katy Perry, I think, is very talented, blah, 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 all the disclaimers. But I don't think she has that thing that oh, now you're giving me Katy Perry. I mean,
right. Rude, never.
Exactly. Look at Alyssa Edwards. There's no thing, and so I think Scarlett did a great little performance in a shark costume and she wiggled real nice and she looked real cute and she was funny. But you'd have to tell me, oh, that's Katy Perry. So I think that Scarlett is definitely safe this week. Here's an example of
safe. Safe.
I think this is almost now an inverse of Yara, where Scarlett showed up and she did what she was supposed to do, but everything around her, the song, the arrangement, blah, blah, was even the choreography was like okay,
Ginger,
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So So though I'll say Ginger. I can't decide what it was, but once I saw all the performances, then when I watched Ginger's again, I was like, this is kind of a bottom performance for me. It's a little flat.
Hers is her and Scarlett. For me, scored just above the bottom.
Yeah.
They're my bottom 6. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Lower safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if ever there was a time to talk about therapy.
And I do love to talk about therapy.
I honestly don't know anyone who wouldn't benefit from it these days, myself included.
I couldn't agree more, Mary, and it's super accessible now thanks to BetterHelp. That's H-E-L-P.
BetterHelp connects you with a licensed professional therapist safely and privately.
You can be matched with someone within 24 hours. And with phone or video sessions available, scheduling a session is as easy as ordering a lovely cheese pizza just for me.
And much like Selena, I love pizza. I also love that you can send a message to your counselor basically at any time and actually get a response.
And if you want to change counselors, no problem. It's both free and easy.
BetterHelp is available worldwide, and their counselors are licensed and trained in everything from depression and anxiety to grief, relationships, sleep, self-esteem, and more.
There are so many people using BetterHelp right now. They've recruited more counselors in all 50 states.
It's more affordable than traditional in-person talk therapy, and there's even financial aid available if you need.
Marys, if you're interested in trying BetterHelp, get 10% off your first month by going to betterhelp.com/allrightmary. That's HELP.
That's right. Join over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health. That's betterhelp.com/allrightmary, and that's HELP.
All right, Mary.
We've been waiting to talk about Sonique, Kylie as Steven Tyler.
My goodness. Now, as you may have heard earlier from that teaser, I'm not saying this is the first time we've seen a drag king on Drag Race, because we have seen men perform before, so to speak. We've seen Kennedy play Little Richard, etc., and so forth. But I think when you take all of the elements, this is definitely a first, at least for American Drag Race. Of like a trans woman playing a cis male character, or someone who identifies as female playing a cis male character in full.
I see.
You know what I mean? On Drag Race, like that.
It doesn't even register. Like, I just see woman play. It's, you know what I mean? Like, I forget about that nuance. That's so important, for sure.
Yeah, and it made me think about Land Insider on Dragula. We're seeing, like, in the ways that Drag Race has been showing us classic drag queens, or so many variations on drag queens for years. The closest we get to Drag King is like, I'm playing a guy, Rue, you know, like Alaska playing, you know, that Buffalo Bill
or Trump
character.
the Rusical.
Or Trump the Rusical. Yeah. Where to me, I don't think of that, I guess, as Drag King. I think of it as like caricature. I think of it as just like performance, you know. But this, to me, was giving me the same vibes as when I watched Land Insider transform into a drag character. I saw Sonique transform into Steven Tyler versus I'm playing a guy. You know?
Okay. I totally get that. I definitely got Drag King and that transformation. But Mary, here's my unpopular opinion. Sonique was a clear bottom for me.
Really?
She needed way more going on in her face. It wasn't big enough. The thing about, he's almost glam rock. The thing about Steven Tyler is that there's so much tension in his movements, in his fingers, in his mouth. She needed to do way more with her mouth. Mm-hmm. I just thought this was Rock of Ages bad. It looked like a costume. Steven Tyler is more of a drag queen than a drag king. Can you agree with that?
Steven Tyler does drag. I'll say that, certainly. I think I think it's drag. I think it's...
Okay. That's fair. Because have you seen him lately? Like, this guy his face is insane. So
yeah.
I just
if you
think
put Carly Simon in a dehydrator, you get Steven Tyler. Yeah. She's ready. Is she great? Because I don't want to miss a thing.
Dream of Californication, Mary. So yeah. I just,
you're so vain. You probably think this jerky's about you.
So I don't know, Mary. Whatever. I'm going to lean into my opinion. I'm not going to apologize for it.
Lean in.
I thought the last face that Sonique made, that Kylie made, was great. Otherwise, she had, the movement with the microphone, but I don't think it was intense enough. I thought the costume was wearing her. It reminded me of, God, this is a read. It was like very Rock of Ages Junior.
Wow. Oh, Junior. Wow, the Kids Bop version.
Because there wasn't any age and like weatheredness on her face. Like, this guy did massive amounts of drugs. Mm-hmm. Like, there was so much in his face and on his face and Kylie, she just looked too pretty. She looked too young. She looked way too polished under all of this, like, Sweet November Rain, Aerosmith, 80s rock band stuff that she was wearing. It seemed more like, granted, it was in quotes, which I like, and I think she needed way more nuance. And the read that Akira got from the judges is the read I thought Sonique should have got.
So you thought she should have looked like that dead lady in Mulholland Drive who pops out behind the 7-Eleven or whatever.
Was that a lady?
I don't know what it was. Was it a lady?
Does it matter? Gender's a construct, right?
Yeah,
Mary?
yeah, yeah. They were dead, but so fair enough. I appreciated the variation of oh, I feel like I'm watching a drag king on Drag Race, but I will agree that it could be the same as oh wow, I'm seeing a drag queen on TV, but I'm watching season 1 or season 2 of Drag Race. I'm watching the country western runway. I'm like, oh look, there's Jessica Wilde in jeans. That's so cool. Whereas maybe now I'm like, why are you wearing jeans? And so I hear you.
Yeah.
It's this was no outsider at the same time.
No way. For me, the bottom is Yara, Sonique, and Eureka. I would have put them clearly in the bottom. And then maybe it would have been between Eureka and Yara. But I could have totally seen Sonique in the bottom. Her look on the runway, I mean, she called it a fucking goddess character, which I love, the faggotry of that. But the sleeves were a mess. I don't know. I love Sonique. And this was not Sonique's week for me.
Yeah, it's kind of have you ever put a bunch of Ziploc sandwich bags in a larger gallon bag?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's kind of what the look was to me.
Okay, that's very specific.
Because the box breaks.
Yeah, the box breaks, and you're like,
well,
I have this big one.
I had all the frozen bagels in this, but I'll just put the bags in here.
Frozen bagels, lenders.
Yeah. Maybe.
We talked about Jan, right? Jan did very well. It was a beach ball. She got everything right. She lip synced very well.
I'll just say this because, we're just, we're letting our tits hang out this episode. It's because you're in Mexico. We're all on vacation, mode here. I do think there were moments, and I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing, so don't take it as a negative, but it's a reality, is that when she was at the piano, there were moments where Jan's Gaga was giving me a little bit of Melanie Hutzel doing Lady Gaga. Remember Melanie Hutzel from SNL?
No.
Oh, well, then none of this is Hutsell.
Oh, God. Hutzel. Mary, what is this deep cut? Oh, my God. No. No,
I'm not wrong. You're looking at some... No, I
she
just
does
Googled
Gaga?
her. No, of course. She doesn't, but if she did, it would be a little of what Jan did. That kind of face that she was making. Kind of face,
okay. I guess I see that. I thought it was Gaga through and through. I thought she looked in the mirror. This was studied. It was clear that Jan, as Jan said, helped her, realize herself. And the story of so many little monsters, right? That she just kind of unlocks something in gay people. I was
after she finished this performance, she just walked out and walked into that parking lot that Jiggly was in, and RuPaul had to go after her and give her a hug. Right. She had to come down from Gaga.
From. No, I thought that it's great. I hope she continues to do Gaga things on her Instagram and social media, that she kind of runs with this. I saw on social media somebody was like, "Oh, Trinity and Jan should do Telephone," which I think would be a great idea. A great little collab.
Mm-hmm.
But Jan was great. She also got a piano. A change of pace. Her song felt longer than the rest. There was a lot to this. There was a journey. It was very clip worthy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think on second watch I liked it more than on first watch. I think that, to me, performance-wise, Jan was an A and Trinity was an A+. And so there's that feeling of the whole time I'm like, yeah, Jan was great. But the whole time there's also that chorus coming that I know is going to be delicious,
Sure. I mean, here's the thing. If I had to choose, I'm so biased, Mary. So I can't trust myself to say that Trinity was better than Jan. Does that make sense? All I can
Yes.
say is I like Trinity better than Jan in this challenge, and I know that that's informed by my absolute bias. So here's another unpopular opinion, and I hope it's not unpopular. Akira was so fucking good. The song wasn't.
Yeah, I think that Akira was. It was. I think now that Jan was going to win the challenge, you're like, okay, who are we going to Dogville this week? And it was Akira. Like, what does a queen have to do? They're like, no, clean my house, whatever else they made her do in that movie.
Oh God, she had to move the wheelbarrow.
Yeah, put this chain on your neck. Yeah. Sleep outside now. I don't trust you. Are you stealing bread?
Oh God, we're so dark post pandemic.
I know.
Post mask, I should say, because the pandemic's still going on. So I should say post mask in America.
Yeah. Do the judges and make RuPaul watch. Yeah.
I want to watch her face. I just thought Akira.
If she
was
doesn't
so
cry,
good.
she can stay. Yeah. She can Shantae, she can stay if she doesn't cry.
If Akira doesn't cry, she can stay.
Yeah, well, that's what they ended up doing to her. It's like,
but Mary, okay, so let's talk about Akira from head to toe. The head shaking, the nuance of the head shaking, the face she made with her lips, the makeup, the ass reveal. She knew she did the assignment. It's just the arrangement wasn't very fun. And her critique was like, oh, well, sometimes he's sexy and, sometimes he's cool. I'm like, I get all that, Jamal. And like, you could have put that onto any of these performances. I just thought that she was totally in my top 3 with Raja, right? So like either Raja or Akira in the top 3 with Jan and Trinity, because of let it not be another moment before I praise her runway, which was the best of the bunch.
yeah.
How could she be in the bottom? I'm sorry, I'm getting so passionate, but wow, shut up. They scored Eureka higher than this? Shut up. Judges are canceled.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I think I'm done with Drag Race. I'm done with the show.
I'm not going to watch this
I'm
show
not going to watch anymore. They're really losing fans, and I think they need to know about it. So, like, at RuPaul's Drag Race, fix this. Do better.
Well, you know what they can do? They can bring Coco, oh my God, Coco Peru
Coco
onto
Montrese
Drag
in
Race.
those pajamas, yeah.
Coco Peru should finally be on Drag Race, but whatever. But, maybe there's a beef there. I don't know.
I'll forgive this week and the treatment of Akira C. Davenport if they have Coco Peru on the judges panel at some point. But I agree. Watching this performance, I thought she was so entertaining. I had a great time. I thought she was great. She looked great. This whole idea of like playing different emotions, I was like, this is so when Eureka played no emotions, that was fun because Madonna doesn't have any. But when Akira like wrings the goddamn rag out, not enough, not good enough, like
right. And I'll say the same about some of these other safe girls, like Katy